What if, every night before you fell asleep, guilt wrote you a letter? Imagine opening an envelope with your name on it, shaky handwriting, smudged ink, maybe even a faint scent of something familiar. You unfold the paper, and there it is. Every word you've avoided saying, every mistake you've pretended to forget, every thought you've buried under 100 distractions. Tonight, guilt decides to talk. But the question is, would you read it? Or would you tear it apart before the words could even reach you? If this thought already made your chest tighten a bit, you're in the right place, because tonight we're diving into that invisible weight most of us carry, quietly. The letters guilt never stops writing. And hey, before we begin, if you've ever stayed up replaying something you wish you'd done differently, hit that like button. You'll fit right in here. So, let's open the first letter. It starts with a whisper. Remember me? Guilt doesn't scream, it waits. It doesn't chase you down the street, it sits patiently in the corner of your room, watching, silent like a shadow you can't get rid of. Maybe it's about the words you said in anger or the person you hurt when you were just trying to protect yourself. Maybe it's about the dream you abandoned, the call you didn't return, or that one promise you broke. The truth is, guilt doesn't care about time. It collects moments like stamps, saving them for nights when the world is quiet, when even your phone can't distract you anymore. And that's when it writes, slowly, deliberately, reminding you of who you were and who you could have been. But here's something people don't talk about. Guilt isn't always your enemy. It's not some cruel ghost haunting you for fun. It's more like an uninvited teacher. It shows up with messy handwriting and harsh words, but hidden between the lines, there's usually something it's trying to teach you. The question is, are you listening, or are you just trying to escape? Because here's the twist. When you try to ignore guilt, it doesn't disappear. It gets creative. It turns into overthinking, restlessness, even physical tension. It finds its way into your body, your relationships, your work. You start over-explaining things. You start saying sorry too much. You laugh when you're uncomfortable. You scroll mindlessly to drown the noise. Guilt doesn't vanish. It just changes its costume. Now imagine if guilt could really write you letters. What would yours say tonight? Would it start with, "Dear you, I know you've been pretending you're fine"? Would it remind you of the friend you ghosted, or the lie you told yourself last month about being over it? Maybe it would say, "I saw the way you smiled today, but I know it didn't reach your eyes." The thing about guilt is, it knows your truth. It doesn't care about the version you show the world. It remembers the one you try to forget. But here's the thing most of us never realize. Every letter guilt writes also contains a choice. You can either read it and let it define you, or read it and let it refine you. Let's pause for a second. Be honest. How many of your guilt letters have you been avoiding? Don't worry, you don't have to answer out loud, but think about it. We all have them. The thing you said that changed someone's life in the wrong way. The moment you looked away instead of helping. Or maybe the one where you helped everyone else but forgot yourself. Guilt's handwriting is personal. It knows your weaknesses, your soft spots. It knows how to sting. But what if I told you that guilt is just proof that you care? Think about it. People who feel guilt deeply are usually the ones who want to do better. Guilt is your conscience saying, "Hey, this isn't who we want to be." The problem is, we treat guilt like punishment instead of guidance. We read the letter, get hurt, and then throw it away instead of responding to it. Now imagine if you could write back. What would you say? Maybe you'd write, "Dear guilt, I hear you, but I'm tired of your midnight visits." Or maybe you'd say, "Thank you for reminding me, but I'm ready to move on." Because here's where things shift. The moment you answer guilt, it stops shouting. It becomes a conversation, not a courtroom. You stop being the accused and start being the student. You start learning from what hurt you instead of reliving it. And that's where healing begins. Not in ignoring guilt, but in understanding what it's trying to tell you. But of course, guilt doesn't go quietly. It tests you. It sends one last letter that says, "Are you sure you've forgiven yourself?" And that's the hardest one to open. Because forgiving yourself means accepting that you're human. It means you've done things you can't undo, said things you can't unsay, but that doesn't mean you're unworthy of peace. It means you're growing. Sometimes guilt lingers because we're afraid that if we forgive ourselves, we'll forget what we learned. But here's the truth. Real forgiveness doesn't erase the lesson, it just stops the pain from controlling the narrative. And look, let's be real. Some nights, you'll still get those letters. You'll still remember that one mistake, that one conversation. You'll feel the familiar sting. But instead of tearing the letter up, try this. Read it, breathe, and then write your own. Write something like, "Dear guilt, I know why you're here. Thank you for reminding me of who I was, but I'm focused on who I'm becoming." Because guilt only wins when it keeps you stuck. Once you start answering back, you take your power back. Funny thing is, guilt doesn't know what to do with silence. When you stop feeding it with self-punishment, it eventually runs out of ink. And maybe that's when something new begins. Acceptance, the quiet kind, the kind that doesn't erase your past, but finally lets you rest in it. You start realizing that guilt was never trying to destroy you. It was trying to guide you home, to the part of yourself that still believes you can do better. And isn't that what being human is about? Making mistakes, learning, and daring to love yourself anyway? But here's a thought. What if tonight guilt writes you one more letter, and this time it's blank? What if it's giving you the pen saying, "Your turn"? What would you write back? Maybe you'd write, "I forgive me." Maybe you'd write, "I'm ready to sleep peacefully now." Or maybe you'd just write, "Thank you." Because sometimes closure doesn't come from someone else's apology. It comes from your own courage to forgive the person you were. So as you sit there listening, maybe your mind's already flipping through old pages, regrets, lost chances, unfinished sentences. That's okay. Don't look away. This is the part where you stop being afraid of your guilt and start understanding it. Because you can't heal what you won't face. And trust me, the day you finally stop running from those letters is the day they stop hurting. They become reminders, not punishments, lessons, not sentences. And if no one's told you this before, listen carefully. You've done enough punishing. You've spent enough nights replaying old stories. You're allowed to start fresh. You're allowed to look at guilt and say, "I'm not that person anymore." Because you're not. You've grown, you've changed, you're still here, still trying, and that counts for something. Actually, it counts for everything. So maybe tonight before you sleep, write your own letter, not to guilt, not to anyone else, to yourself. Write, "I'm proud of the person I'm becoming," and mean it. Because if guilt could write you letters every night, maybe it's time you start replying, with forgiveness, with self-respect, and with hope. If this hit you somewhere deep, if it reminded you of a letter you've been afraid to open, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, subscribe, and share it with someone who might need to hear that they're not alone in their silent battles. Because at the end of the day, we're all just humans, learning to forgive ourselves, one letter at a time.